Limboshire, The First Fall of Limboshire, Chapter 3. The home carer was out visiting her client's older sons. She was there talking to the younger son, awaiting for the older one to return. They'd been discussing their background and families. The home carer had been telling about her own loss of family that she'd lost a long time ago. Obviously, your own mother was a great support, went on the home carer after a long time of talking. She was a great support to me for many years, so I just wanted to help her out as much as I can while I can, really, to return the favour to her, began the home carer. Mum, she never went out visiting anyone. I don't remember that, said the young brother. She doesn't even visit her own sons. She never visited us when she was well, never mind strangers, now repeated the son, upset. Oh, she did become very ill, though, over a long time. I think she wasn't able to visit you, and that's why she couldn't visit recently. She hasn't visited in a long time anyone. You know, at a younger age, she used to visit like clockwork. She used to visit lots of people. And she always would turn up with a bag of happiness, visiting the house of sadness, leaving her bags of happiness around. She was always visiting people, always, until she got ill, David. After that, she never could. She only stopped because she couldn't visit anymore, defended the home carer of the mother. But at that moment, the front door suddenly opened. The older brother suddenly arrived, bustling through the hallway, barging into the lounge area, standing over the pair of them that had been talking. I apologise, he said to them both, neither sure who he was speaking to. Something happened on the road, long tailbacks. I trust David's been looking after you, said the older brother, looking over to the home carer, meeting her eyes. They then looked at each other for a long time. Yes, she said finally. He's kept me entertained. We've been talking, having a nice chat, she said, forcing a smile, and looking to David with a strained smile. Not about me, I hope, said the older brother, jesting, and now putting down some of the shopping bags that he'd been clambering in with, putting them down carefully on a table. Oh, about all sorts of different things. Rambling on, said the home carer. Did he offer you a drink yet? asked the older brother. She was then silent to this, and David shrugged. I didn't think to. Sorry, I didn't know you wanted one, began David, stuttering, faltering a little. Oh, that's not good hospitality. David, where are your manners? After all the time that she's spending caring for our mum. You know, all of that time. She cares for your mum so much, and you don't even offer her a drink. Our mother, said David, correcting him. Well, make us all a drink, why don't you, for goodness sake, said the older brother, once all the shopping was put down on the table, and he came over to their lounge area, sitting on the seat beside them both, looking over to his brother, who then obeyed, getting up, standing up and going over to the kitchen door. You haven't asked what she wants yet, joked the older brother, laughing a little reproachfully, and David, the younger brother, turned back to look at the home carer, sat there. Sister sat sheepishly on the couch, unsure what to make of it. Oh, what would you like? What kind of drink do you want? He finally asked her. I don't mind, really. Well, whatever you're having, she replied. Oh, I'd be careful. Drinking from the stranger's cup comes with its risks, said the older brother, looking up, with a smile, raising his eyebrows, sat there just along from the chair. Well, I reason you wouldn't pour yourself poison now, would you? She said, looking back and smiling at him. Ah, that's a judgment, not a gamble. I probably would have a little whiskey, he said with a smile. Well, nothing like that for me, she said. Just tea or coffee would do, finally said the home carer. And he laughed. A little bit early for drinking, she said. I admire your logic, though, and you're right. But this time, even if my poison has its limits, I'll have a small whiskey, David. Whiskey and Coke, he said, looking at his younger brother. But then we all have our different limits, do we not? Said the older brother, looking over to them both, asking the question. The young home comforter was then silent, sat on the couch for a while. So what should I make then? What do you want? The younger brother then said to her, asking again. Stood then clumsily in the hallway, arms still dangling by his side, as if not sure what to do with them, and staring at her longingly. Well, whatever he's happening, I'll have the whiskey and coke too. It sounds good. Maybe it's not too early enough. And the older brother replied, well, that sounds good. We'll both have that. And it's not too early at all. Not when you get up early, he finally said, with a smile to the home comforter. Then, as the younger brother had finally left the kitchen, the older brother had sat down closer to the home comforter, to the visitor, his mother's carer, taking a seat closer to her. Now, if we could just turn to the arrangement that we were discussing last night, just paying for the broken plates and that. Okay, she finally said after hearing his introduction. What I need is someone to visit the house in an evening. We're building an extension to a home. It will eventually function as a granary flat, eventually, for Mother. Oh, you're building a granary flat for Mother? She asked, confused. Yes, you'll be even with her, even there, if that's okay. I mean, you can visit her in the granary flat. So eventually, we'll still feel that we owe her, though. We still need to look after her. But, with her memory declining a lot, so I think it'd be better if she lived with us eventually. So we're building an extension, sort of a room that she could use, that's joined to our own house. When the time comes, if it's months or years away, then she can move in with us. So it's just preparing for the inevitable. We don't know when that will be. It could be months or even years ahead. But it means that when she visits, she has somewhere to stay over as well. Until then, until it eventually becomes her room. I thought you might assist David with some of the construction work. It wouldn't take a few months and that, began the older brother now, getting out some paperwork as if to show him diagrams, drawings of different architectural designs or something. What? She gasped, looking back and sitting back a little from him. Break a plate and I have to rebuild a house. I think that's going a bit far, isn't it? That's hardly fair, is it? She then said, half smiling but half wondering if he was serious. Break a precious rare antique and replace it with just cleaning up an empty box. That's not actually that unfair, is it, really? Began the older brother. An empty box? What do you mean? Well, it's more than that. It's a large empty box. It's an empty room, isn't it? It needs to be gutted out. It needs to be decorated. It needs to be thoroughly cleaned first, and then needs to be constructed and readapted to fit Mum's needs, began the older brother then. Oh, well, charming. So you expect me to do all of that? I'm not a construction worker or anything. Fancy describing it as a box. Is that what you think it is? Putting somebody in a box? No, that's just a term of phrase. It's a canvas to decorate. 4 walls, that's all. It's just something to decorate. 6, actually, if you include the floor and the roof. And then there's all the fixtures and furnishings that need to be attached to it. It's just one large room adjoined to the house, that's all, really. I didn't mean to call it a box or anything. No one's expecting you to do, complex construction work. It's just helping out as much as you can. Sanding down, doing a lot of cleaning, stripping. I mean the wallpaper, he said with half a smile. Oh, I see. So I don't know how good I would be at any of that. Well, David will be helping you anyway, and you'll be working together on the project. So you're just sanding down some of the walls, doing some cleaning. It's just doing a lot of sanding down, cleaning, washing, stripping the wallpaper, and then how are you on putting up wallpaper? He then asked, looking over to her, looking up from his notes, placed on his lap. She shrugged. I have no history of doing it. I suppose I could try and learn if it's not too hard. I think it's possible to learn, and there's a lot of things that you could do, just putting up some shelves, just moving things around as well. Nothing that serious. I think you'll be okay with it. It's just doing as much as you're capable of doing, really. David will be doing it with you. You can work together on it, he repeated once more. She finally nodded along, and okay, she consented. Except I know nothing about doing that kind of work, really. It's not my strong point at all. Nonsense. You don't have to have a strong stature or anything. It's not about being extra strong or anything. Women have rebuilt cities. You don't have to be an architect or do anything that complex anyway. It's just doing a few relatively simple things. Maybe if you need some guidance, there'll be others to talk to, give out some advice to you on it as well. So, it should be quite simple to follow along with, really. Simple directions. There's different manuals, how to put together some of the different storage units that are going to be made up, that kind of thing, really. My gosh, she finally said, sighing. It sounds like it's going to be a real challenge, but I will try my best to do as much as I can. Okay, I'll try and do what I can. David will help as much as he can, and with all the building work too, went on the older brother. Well, what does he know about building or any kind of construction? Asked the young woman then, hearing the noise of the clatter and clink of David making their drinks in the faraway kitchen up corridor. Well, he did build a whole village, finally said the older brother. She stared at him in some disbelief, frowning. What are you talking about? She asked finally. Nobody builds whole villages. A house is building enough for one person. I think maintaining one would be enough these days, she finally said. Well, he has. He has actually done it. Oh, right, it's a model village, said the older brother finally. A model village? Asked the young woman, almost laughing. Yes, it started with a model village. It started as a model house, eventually. Our father bequested him one. Well, he started with model cars, then moved on to a model house. Spent years on that, fixing all the little miniature furniture fixtures and the fixtures and furnishings. He spent ages on doing it, like miniature sofas and tables, and went to some detail on it all, really. All the little ornamental fixtures and fittings. Really, they're quite detailed. And then he moved on to doing a few different miniature houses. He's got a whole collection eventually. He's got miniature roads, miniature cars that actually move between the different model houses. It's a whole model village he's built up. Took him years and years to build it up. It's only a small village, half a dozen houses or so. Well, that's an amazing thing. I have heard tales from his mum about his model house. I didn't know it was a whole model village, to be honest. I knew there were a few model houses. I didn't know he'd gone that far with it. Gosh, I think his mum will be surprised. Or perhaps she doesn't want to talk about it. Even so, a doll's house soul is not the real thing as a real house, is it? She finally pleaded with him. Well, the scale is very different, I grant you, of course. But some of the design structures are just pretty much the same, really, but just doing it on a much smaller scale. Or in this case, he'd be doing it on a larger scale. Some of the things, anyway. I mean, it wouldn't work for everything, he admitted. I'm surprised he didn't mention it much more during your chats together about the model village. He never mentioned that. He spent so long doing it. Then said the older brother, surprised. Yeah, sure. I'll certainly have a look at it. I will consider doing it and try to help as much as I can. But he mentioned about a model house and a few things, and a few model cars he's shown me. Used to take them around the garden when he was younger, wheel them all over the kitchen table and everything. Used to find them all over the place, trip over them enough of the time. I didn't know anything about a model village, though. I knew about a couple of model houses, and I knew often about the model cars. Yes, he talked about those often enough. No, I didn't know about he was building. Do you think he's able to do that, though? She said, now going off on a different line of reasoning. I mean, will he be able to assist me in actually putting up shelves and putting together storage units, in preparing walls to be wallpapered? And I think that he'll be able to do a lot of those basic jobs. Yes, some of them. I think he won't be able to do the plumbing and electrical parts of it, no. And there'll be others that need to help out on some of the more complex projects. But some of the more basic things, I think the two of you should be able to do all right, finally said the older brother. Well, I'll be there to sort of come and visit and see how things are. After all, it's only in the room next door, isn't it? So it'll be on hand. It's just I would be at work a lot of the time. So I'll be able to sort of come in and see how you are, pop in and visit occasionally in the evenings. Well, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. If you find you can't do it, or you're not working out with David, that's quite okay. We'll just find something else that you can do. But just try it and see how you get on. He finally had said. Okay, she agreed, nodding. I'll give it all a go. I can only do my best. Good, he summarised. We'll decide tomorrow, as the statement always was. And she decided she would decide when she actually went through the trial work with Brother David. But tomorrow, the older woman was really unhappy, really fell into a state of depression, sorrowful, moody, long glimpses staring out the window. But at her son's plans for her, she was not sure about, and she was dwelling and talking much about that, the worry of what would happen to her and what the sons would do with her. When she heard about the plans for granary extension to be built at the house of the sons for her to move in to her son's house, for her to live in her son's house and not them live in her house. He'll do no such thing. I'm not living under his house and under his rules, began the mother, saying this to the home comforter, to the young daughter figure, that morning. The next morning she'd found out about the elder son's plans for her. He can think again if he thinks he's going to do that to me. No, said the mother sternly. It was enough living in his father's house under his father's rules. What with all his numerable rules, slurred the older woman. The zealous regulator that he was, she finally said. No, I won't have it, she snapped once more. She sounded quite stern to the younger woman. I shan't do it. Escape one dictator, only to have him replaced for another, she finally said angrily. Oh, surely your son's not that bad. I think he's only trying to care for you. He's only suggesting it out of concern in case you get worse in the future, in case you get more ill and you're more dependent. I'm not able to care for you full time, as you know. If you needed someone to care for you more full time, then you'd be with both your sons all the time. I think he's only suggesting it out of concern, really. Not that he wants to control you. I can't think that of him, began the younger home comforter, the daughter figure. No, you haven't lived with him, and you never lived under his rules either, nor his father's either, said the mother finally. You don't think your son would do that, surely, though, she repeated once more, attempting to remonstrate with the older woman. Oh, I know he would. I know how he thinks. He thinks he would be doing it for my good. Like you say, he does it out of concern and care. I don't doubt that. But he would still be controlling and still try to control me, thinking he knows what's best for me more than I do. Yes, he'd be controlling out of concern, but it's still controlling nonetheless. No, I'm used to being on my own and independent. I'm an older woman. He's patronising and treats me like a child, infantilises me enough as it is when he does his visits. No, never mind living underneath him. That will be even worse. I couldn't abide it. I couldn't live with it. Please, I couldn't, pleaded the mother, as if it was something that the young home carer had some say in herself. I know he'd do it out of concern, but I think it's better that we live in separate houses. I would no more live under his house and his rules than he would ever live under mine. We're just so different. We're such different people, and we shouldn't have to live under each other's houses. It works well with us when we're visiting each other. And I like them visiting. I'm sorry I can't get out to see them now myself, but I call them often enough. I just have to tell them it's a bad idea, it won't work, and I would rather have home carers and people visiting me here. If I get worse, I can have other home carers as well as you visiting me at home, said the older mother now. This now, she decided, was her plan of action. I would no more live under his rule than I would live under some strangers. I wouldn't do it. No, I just don't know. There's too many uncertainties with it, she said. Well, I'm helping him to build a spare room then for nothing, said the young home comforter. Not necessarily, replied the older woman. David could use it himself. He could expand the model village. I know it's quite cramped in that small room he's got. He's got them stacked all over the place. It's grown so much. I didn't know that he was talking about it openly now. He's a shortage of space, though. Oh, these flowers are really lovely, by the way. Lovely. All the visitors have complimented them. Especially Edna. She said the fragrance was divine. I think she went a bit far with it. Well, she's used to the factory smell, so I guess that's why. But it is a beautiful fragrance, and a beautiful sight to look at, too. Well, said the home comforter, if you can't get to the garden, then the garden must come to you. I really don't mind talking about my sons to you, but you must tell me everything about them, everything that goes on at the house. You must do, said now the mother. I want to be told all about this granary flat or this spare room extension they're working on. You don't mind if I mention it, do you, though, to your sons? But asked the home carer. Mention what, though? About the flowers? Asked the mother, now confused. No, that you don't want to live with them, that you don't want to live in the granary flat that we started building. Well, we've only started dusting it down and cleaning it so far, really. I mean, shouldn't you tell them, or do you want me to tell them before it goes on too far? No, said the mother, dismissively. No, they know that I will never change my mind. It's better that they don't know at the moment. I'd rather they built the place so that they have a spare room to use in case it's needed for their own visitors as well, and so that David has a spare room as well, somewhere to go because he's at home so much of the time. I think they know deep down, though. They know that I wouldn't live there, really. I know Sol knows that. He'd never really live with me. He knows we couldn't get on that closely. They just hope that I'll change my mind, that's all. That perhaps they could persuade or convince me. They know deep down that I wouldn't do it. He must know that, really. There's nothing to tell them. My resolve is strong on that. They'll know that. I've been independent for years. They know me. They're not beholden on me, and nor I on them, the mother had finally said. There's no point in telling them that. I think they already know deep down. Sol must know it wouldn't work out, the mother had gone on to say. But then why would he commission me and also his brother to do this project? Why get us to clean and sand down the walls and buy all the wallpaper and all the cleaning materials? And why plan all the fixtures and furnishings and buy all the storage units to put together? Why go to do all that? Oh, I'm just the excuse, said the mother. He just wants a spare room anyway. David wants a spare room. They want their extension for other things, naturally. And then I could use it as a guest room when I do the visits occasionally. Yes, it will be useful for that, and all their other visitors too. But it's not for me. They may say that to you, but it's not true. I'm just the excuse that they're using for that. No, they'll want it as a guest room, a spare room for themselves in any case. You ask them enough and you'll find that out, said the mother, attempting to assure the home carer of this.